Cognitive Interfaces. Chapter 3. From the Inside Out. Reality is a product of consciousness or of the ideas that perceive it. Idealist tradition. In conversations, at least in my experience when talking with some people, there's a common belief that reality is out there, that we are placed within it, separate from it, and that we learn from outside to inside, first from the environment, and then we go inward toward our consciousness to shape it based on the habitat that surrounds us. Over time, certain experiences led me to understand that while some learning does flow from outside to inside, there are many things we need to assimilate from the inside out. Reality, the outside, is not static content. It is dynamic, in constant transformation. Like the universe itself, like a universe within the universe. The inversion of flow. There is a deeply rooted belief in our culture that we are empty vessels arriving in the world to be filled by the exterior. According to this narrative, we are born as blank slates upon which the environment writes its content. Education flows inward, experiences shape us from outside, and we, those passive vessels, simply absorb what the universe delivers. Reality, according to this perspective, is something out there, independent and prior to us, and our job is to adapt to it as best we can. This vision has a certain evolutionary logic. Animals survive by learning from their environment, what is dangerous, what is edible, where there is shelter. Learning from outside to inside is real and necessary. But there is something this perspective omits, the other direction of flow. Because it is also true, perhaps more deeply true, that something flows from us toward the exterior, that our consciousness not only receives but projects, not only absorbs but creates. The most ancient philosophical traditions intuited this truth. Idealism, that current that has crossed cultures and centuries, proposes that reality does not exist independently of the mind that perceives it. It is not about denying that an external world exists, but about recognizing that what we experience as reality is always a participatory construction, the encounter between something coming from outside and something emanating from within. Consciousness as origin. Quantum physics has brought to the laboratory a revelation that mystics have known for millennia. The observer is not separate from the observed. In the strange world of subatomic particles, electrons exist in states of superposition, multiple simultaneous possibilities, until someone observes them. At that moment, the wave function collapses and the particle adopts a defined state. Observation is not passive. It is an act of creative participation. Great thinkers in physics have reached conclusions that would have scandalized their materialist predecessors. Some propose that the observer's consciousness has a causal role in the collapse of the wave function. Others suggested that without observation, quantum particles would exist in a state of indefinite superposition. The implication is dizzying. Our consciousness does not only perceive reality, but participates in its creation. This does not mean we invent reality capriciously, but it does suggest that the relationship between observer and observed is more intimate than common sense assumes. As the boldest interpretations of quantum mechanics point out, observations do not only disturb what is measured, they produce it. We ourselves cause the electron to assume a certain defined position. The act of looking is not neutral, it is constitutive. The holographic universe. The physicist David Bohm developed a revolutionary vision he called the implicate order. According to this perspective, the visible universe, the explicate order, is only a superficial manifestation of a deeper and indivisible reality. Human perception of a fragmented world where subject and object seem separate would be nothing more than a reflection of fragmented thought, not of reality itself. The hologram metaphor is illuminating. In a holographic film, each fragment contains information about the totality of the image. If you cut a hologram in two, each half still contains the complete image, although with lower resolution. What appears separate contains within itself the information of the whole. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. These poetic words capture an intuition that contemporary science is rediscovering. Bohm went further by suggesting that consciousness is not an entity separate from matter, but an aspect of the same universal flow. Mind and matter would not be distinct substances, but expressions of a single, continuous movement. Quantum physics, with phenomena like entanglement, where particles separated by great distances correlate instantaneously, supports this perspective of fundamental interconnection. The Earth as living archive. If consciousness participates in the creation of reality, then every thought, every emotion, every action leaves an imprint. Spiritual traditions speak of a universal memory, a record of everything that has occurred, is occurring, and could occur. This idea appears in the Sanskrit concept of Akasha, the fifth element that contains the other four, the ether that transports the information of the universe. Sages from diverse traditions described this memory as an infinite library where every soul has its archive. It was not mere metaphor, it was the intuition that information is not lost, that the universe records everything that happens. The collective experiences of humanity float in a grid of information that some call planetary memory, others call collective unconscious, and ancient traditions called the archives of the ether. This understanding has profound implications. If the Earth keeps records of our collective consciousness, then we are constantly interacting with a field of information that precedes and transcends us. We do not arrive empty into the world. We arrive on a planet that contains the memory of everything that has been thought, felt, and created by those who preceded us. Learning is not only absorption of external data, it is also reconnection with information that already exists at some level of reality. Gaia, the planetary organism. The scientist James Lovelock proposed something that at first seemed scandalous, that the Earth functions as a living organism capable of self-regulation. His hypothesis, named after the Greek goddess of nature, suggests that all terrestrial components, atmosphere, oceans, soil, living beings, form an integrated system that maintains the conditions necessary for life. Earth's atmosphere, from a chemical standpoint, should be in equilibrium, mostly carbon dioxide, with barely any oxygen. But life maintains it in a state of controlled disequilibrium, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, barely 0.03% CO2. This anomalous composition can only be explained by the activity of living organisms that, as a whole, regulate planetary conditions. Life does not only inhabit the Earth, life is the Earth in a very real sense. If the planet functions as a superorganism, and if we are part of that organism, then our individual consciousness is an aspect of something vaster. We are not external observers placed upon an inert rock. We are cells of a planetary body, neurons of a global mind in formation. And as such, our influence is not unidirectional. We affect the whole just as much as the whole affects us. From matrix to tensor. Popular culture has given us the metaphor of the matrix, a simulation that traps humanity in a shared illusion. Although this image comes from cinema, it captures something true. We live inside a perceptual interface that filters, organizes, and structures our experience. We do not perceive reality raw. We perceive it through layers of biological, psychological, and cultural processing. But the matrix metaphor has limitations. A matrix is something static, a prison from which one must escape. Reality is more complex. That is why I prefer another mathematical concept, the tensor. A tensor is an algebraic object that describes relationships between sets of elements in a multidimensional space. Unlike a simple matrix, a tensor captures the dynamic, multidirectional, and transformational nature of relationships. Tensors have a fascinating property. They are invariant under changes of coordinates. This means that the object they describe remains the same even though the reference system from which we observe it changes. This characteristic makes them ideal for describing fundamental physical laws, like those governing the curvature of spacetime and relativity. And it also makes them a more precise metaphor for our perceptual experience. The perceptual layer as tensorial field. Our perception is not a rigid matrix that traps us, but a tensorial field that mediates between our consciousness and the universe. This field is dynamic. It constantly transforms according to our internal states, our beliefs, our intentions. We are not trapped in a static illusion. We are participating in a process of continuous creation. The perceptual tensor transports our core, what some call soul, others spirit, others energy or vibration, through different configurations of reality. Every belief we adopt, every emotional pattern we cultivate, every perspective we choose, modifies the geometry of this tensorial field. And since the tensor determines which aspects of reality manifest in our experience, modifying the tensor is modifying the world we experience. The crucial difference between matrix and tensor is this. From a matrix, one escapes. With a tensor, one works. It is not about awakening from an illusion to see true reality. It is about understanding that the relationship between consciousness and reality is multidimensional, dynamic, and transformable. And that transformation occurs from inside to outside, not the other way around. Reality as process. One of the most persistent errors of our culture is treating reality as if it were static content. We speak of facts as if they were solid and immutable objects, but reality, the outside, the universe, is not a fixed container surrounding us. It is a dynamic process in constant transformation. Like the universe itself, which expands, evolves, reconfigures itself in every instant. This understanding fundamentally changes the question about learning. If reality were static, then the model of passive absorption would make sense. We would learn by copying fixed structures from exterior to interior. But if reality is a living process, then true learning cannot be mere copying. It must be participation, co-creation, dialogue between what we are and what the universe presents to us. The Hermetic traditions expressed this with the formula, as above, so below. There are correspondences between all levels of reality. What happens on the internal plane has reflections on the external plane. The microcosm, the human being, contains within itself the structure of the macrocosm, the universe. This is not an empty, mystical statement. It is an operative description of how creation works. The universe within the universe. Each of us is a universe within the universe. We are not isolated fragments floating in a hostile void. We are local concentrations of the same consciousness that animates the whole. And just as the whole influences the parts influence the whole. This bidirectional influence is the key to understanding why the flow from inside to outside is as important as the reverse flow. If we accept the holographic universe model, then each fragment contains information about the totality. Our interior is not an empty space that must be filled from outside. It is a point of access to the infinite, a window toward everything that exists. Deep knowledge does not come from accumulating external data. It comes from connecting with the source we already are. This explains phenomena that the materialist model cannot explain: genuine creativity, intuition that anticipates what we do not yet know, moments of sudden understanding where everything fits together. These experiences are not importation of external information. They are unfoldings of what was already implicated in our interior, remembering more than learning, unveiling more than acquiring. The inner creative power. Traditions of personal development have insisted for centuries on a truth that dominant culture tends to ignore. Thoughts have creative power. Not in a magical or superstitious sense, but in a very practical sense. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between real and imagined experiences. It processes vivid visualization of a scenario as if that scenario were actually happening. And given that the subconscious manages most of our automatic responses, this characteristic has enormous consequences. Beliefs are not passive opinions. They are active instructions for processing reality. A person who deeply believes that the world is hostile will filter their experience in a way that confirms that belief. They will notice threats, minimize opportunities, interpret neutral events as confirmations of hostility. It is not that they are wrong about an objective external reality. It is that they are co-creating their experience from inside to outside. Masters of inner manifestation have taught techniques for working with this dynamic: visualization, affirmation, meditation. These practices are not attempts to trick the mind, but forms of communication with the deepest layers of our consciousness. The subconscious responds to the language of images, emotions, and repetition. Learning to speak that language is learning to direct the creative flow that emanates from within. Transformation from the center. Genuine change always occurs from inside to outside. We can modify external circumstances, but if internal patterns remain the same configurations will tend to recreate themselves. People who win the lottery and end up in the same economic situation as before illustrate this principle. The exterior changed, but the interior, with its beliefs about money, abundance, deservingness, recreated the original condition. The inner alchemy described by spiritual traditions is precisely this, transforming the lead of our internal limitations into the gold of expanded consciousness. We do not change external reality directly. We refine the instrument that processes it, interprets it, co-creates it. And since the instrument and the experience are inseparable, refining perception is refining life itself. Working from inside to outside does not deny the importance of the exterior. It is not about enclosing oneself in a mental bubble ignoring the world. It is about recognizing that our relationship with the world is mediated by internal structures, and that modifying those structures modifies the relationship. The exterior continues to exist, but our experience of it transforms when we transform. The bidirectional flow. It would be a mistake to replace the dogma of everything comes from outside with the inverse dogma of everything comes from inside. Reality is more subtle. There is a continuous bidirectional flow between interior and exterior. We learn from the environment, that is undeniable. But we also project onto the environment, select which aspects of the environment to perceive, interpret the environment according to our internal frameworks. Neuroscience confirms this bidirectionality. The brain operates through predictive coding. Before sensory stimuli arrive, it is already generating expectations about what it will find. Perception is, to a large extent, comparison between what is predicted and what is received. Only prediction errors capture our conscious attention. This means that most of what we believe we perceive is projection of confirmed expectations, creation from inside to outside. Recognizing bidirectionality frees us from two extremisms: naive materialism that denies any creative power to consciousness, and extreme idealism that denies any reality to the external world. The truth seems to lie in the encounter, a universe that exists independently of any individual observer, but that only manifests fully in the act of observation. A reality that shapes us, but that is also shaped by us. The point of power. The point of power is always the present, and the point of power is always within. We cannot directly change the past, nor completely control the future. We cannot force others to transform, nor manipulate external circumstances by pure will. But we can modify how we process experience, what meanings we assign, from which internal states we respond. This understanding is liberating. It means we do not depend entirely on external circumstances changing to experience change. Change can begin now, from within, by modifying our relationship with what is. And that inner change over time generates outer changes, not by magic, but because different internal states produce different actions, different choices, different responses from the environment. Future generations inherit the fruits of our inner transformation. We do not only transmit genes and culture, we transmit patterns of consciousness, fields of information, configurations of the perceptual tensor. When we genuinely transform, that transformation resonates beyond our individual life. We are links in a chain of consciousness that extends toward the past and toward the future. The inner turn. Copernicus displaced the Earth from the center of the physical universe, but perhaps we need a reverse turn in the plane of consciousness, recognizing that each of us is a center from which reality radiates. Not the only center, there are as many centers as there are consciousnesses, but a real center from which experience unfolds. This recognition does not feed the ego. It transcends it, because if each one is a center of creation, then no one is more central than another. The fundamental equality of beings does not rest on political abstractions. It rests on the very structure of reality. Each consciousness is equally a point of access to the infinite, equally a universe containing the universe. We live within a perceptual field that transports our core, our essential spark, through the changing configurations of existence. This field is not a prison from which to escape. It is an instrument for navigating, and the art of living consists of consciously tuning it, calibrating its parameters, choosing from which internal states we project toward the world we co-create. The information we can perceive in physical reality is housed in the earth. There are records on our planet that date to the state of our collective consciousness, but those records are not only past history, they are present possibility. By connecting with them from our interior, not only absorbing data, but resonating with patterns, We participate in the continuous evolution of planetary consciousness. The journey from outside to inside is necessary. We must learn from the world, absorb information, adapt to the environment. But the complementary journey from inside to outside is equally essential and frequently forgotten. We have something to project, something to create, something to offer the universe that did not exist before us. Our consciousness is not an empty vessel waiting to be filled. It is a source from which originality, beauty, transformation can emanate. The universe creates us, yes, but we also create universe.